We are live as well on YouTube. Thank you. I feel like a radio presenter. Thank you everyone for joining and for everyone that's in the Google Meet as well. My name is Jane Crochet Hall Robertson. It's a bit of a mouthful. But yeah, I'm very excited to welcome you this evening. I'm the academic head at Open Window. And I'm hoping that this evening will provide you with a little bit more academic information on our program offering at the Open Window. I'm going to start my slide presentation first before I get into all of the details. Just got to select the correct one. Oh, whoopsie, sorry, that's the wrong button. Just technical difficulties of a live show. Okay. Can you all see my presentation now clearly? Thank you very much.
We can see, all good.
Okay, super. So welcome. Obviously, this presentation is intended for possible or prospective students that are thinking about registering at Open Window, but it's also for students who have chosen to register at Open Window who would like a little bit more information about the academic outline, the possible programs, and the culture that we try to foster in our academic approach at Open Window. So, oopsie, I've got to go back to the correct screen here. There you go. Okay, so in terms of our academic approach, Open Window aims to foster a culture of exploration, learning, and inventiveness. We encourage students to explore their creativity, to develop a unique and creative style and approach, and to foster creativity thinking, which allows students to develop skills to work both independently and, of course, collaboratively as well. And this philosophy really underpins our approach across all academic platforms. The leading people in any field are those who can think creatively and innovatively. And most importantly, arts and cultural learning encourages awareness and empathy and an appreciation of difference and diversity, which I think are very, very important skills for anyone entering the industry. Obviously, following the pandemic, the work world has also changed, and the World Economic Forum identified the top 3 skills for the future world of work as being complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. And these are all values that form the foundation of our teaching philosophy at the Open Window. So, why study at the Open Window? Open Window has a unique approach to providing tertiary education, and this is driven by our emphasis on contact time with lecturers and academic staff. In a creative education, regular critical feedback and continuous informal and formal assessment is key to a student's development. So we adopt a personalized educational approach where one-on-one access to lecturers is continuously encouraged. Importantly, we encourage our lecturers and students to also collaborate. Open Window hosts a number of events where staff collaborate with students, working with students. We even have instances in our final pangolins. I saw some wonderful films where lecturers were actually playing roles in our student films, which is so exciting. And we feel that this is fundamental to creating learning opportunities within the adult education and higher education framework. We also attempt to maintain strong ties to industry, which I think makes Open Window unique. We introduce and involve industry professionals in our offering throughout our courses, and this is achieved through inviting industry guests to do demonstrations and lectures. They have involvement in events that we host, exhibitions, seminars, and festivals, and many more strategies. Open Window is also privileged to employ industry professionals and leaders. Many of our staff are leaders in their respective creative fields, whether they be artists, designers, or filmmakers, actors, puppeteers, or publishing academics. We've got many wonderful academic staff members on our team. So this approach provides our students with benchmarked knowledge of industry and thought leaders by the time they graduate, which I think is a wonderful thing. On this slide, I just want to give you an overview of the qualifications that we offer at the Open Window. So it introduces you here to the different certificate courses that we offer. We have a national certificate in film and television production, a national certificate in 3D animation and visual effects, a national certificate in design techniques. And through the certificate, we run 2 streams or 2 focuses. One focus is on user interface design, and another focus is on communication design. And then we offer the Further Education and Training Certificate, or FET certificate, in photography. In terms of our undergraduate bachelor's qualifications, we offer a Bachelor of Creative Technologies. We offer a Bachelor of Film Arts, again with 2 streams. So one stream focuses on animation arts, and one stream focuses on film arts. And then we have a Bachelor of Arts in Visual Communication Design. Later on, I'm going to introduce you to each of the heads of schools that run the respective schools within which these qualifications are housed. And they will give you a little bit more insight into the major focuses of each school, the unique offering of each school, and some of the strategies the school holds. So I just wanted to give you an overview in general of the academic journey of an Open Window student so that you can understand the difference between certificates and degree, and then also the difference between the different levels of the degree from first to third year. So at a certificate level, students gain foundational competencies in the practical areas of the certificates, allowing the students to enter on a level of competence in the industry where they can apprentice or grow and provide an alternative access trajectory to enter a degree program if combined with other courses. So certificate course is about gaining foundational competencies. Then on your degree level, your first level is about gaining practical experience in a number of practical subjects. It ensures that the foundational knowledge is covered through our fundamental subjects. And at the end of the first year, the students select a major or a double major to continue into second year with. So that major or double major will really determine which school you fall into. You won't sort of select that school from first year. At second year, the program is designed to offer you a sustainable career by focusing and growing skills within that area of specialization. The program also encourages interdisciplinary awareness by offering a wide selection of skills-based modules that you can select as well. And then by the end of third year, students will have the competence to apply effective, creative, conceptual, and management strategies to their field and focus. And they will at that point be able to communicate a message or a narrative successfully and creatively within their craft. They will also be ready to enter industry, or if they would like to study further, they will be ready to enter postgraduate study programs. Okay. Sorry, I'm just sort of shifting between my different screens. So what I wanted to do is just introduce you to some unique offerings of our campus. Obviously, our campus facilities support our academic programs, and we ensure that students have access to Wi-Fi on our campus continuously. Our campus includes a spacious library, a professional photography studio with an infinity curve, professional sound and production facilities, large air-conned, fully equipped studios, along with the auditorium. What you're seeing on the screen now is the shot of our gallery, which is a fully functional and curated gallery that's running through our campus. We also have, this is our lecturer workspace that you can have a look at. And in the background, you will see consultation pods where the lecturers can have one-on-one contact sessions with our students when they're on campus. And then we also have specialized spaces available to our students, such as the maker space, which features 3D printing devices, a medium format printer, an electronics library, an acting lab. We also have a workshop, and then something that's still underway that we're currently investing in is a specialized dressing room for our photography and acting and production design students. So Open Window is obviously always committed to constantly improving and upgrading not only our academic offering, but also the facilities through which we engage in our pedagogy. And this is, of course, our beautiful atrium, which is a hybrid outdoors event, and we host the drawing classes in here. So these are some of our last year's, first years in a drawing class, drawing and narrative class. Okay, so we're at that point now where I'd like to introduce you to some of our, or all of our heads of schools. So I would like to introduce you to Stefan Karlitz. Stefan is the head of Animation Arts School, and he's going to provide you with a brief overview of the school, speak about some unique approaches, introduce you to each of the subjects within his school, and yeah, show you some exciting student work that you can
Thank you very much,
enjoy.
Jane.
Pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. All right, so I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the school and what makes you a potential fit for this particular school, what our or how our offering is unique to us, and what we think gives us the edge in the industry. And yeah, and I've also included some of the student work, mostly as you'll sort of peruse through our website and all sorts of media. We use student work to promote our own course content because we're proud of what our students do, and they're also really good at the type of work that they do. So we're really proud, and we like to use our own student work so that we can also show that you know, they're born and bred open window quality. All right, so I suppose the overview of the school is that I think generally we approach first year on a very technical level. We look largely at software orientation, so you can familiarize yourself with the tools that you have to then practice your skills and your discipline and your art eventually. You need to get to a certain level of proficiency before you can have complete creative freedom. So we believe that being proficient is really important. Then as you develop in your skill set, I would say, like, even before you can bridge that proficiency gap, you need to have a keen interest or underlying passion for the medium. I don't think that if you've never watched an animated film, or if you've never played a game before, that this is particularly something that you should be interested in. You know, don't just take animation arts or an animation arts subject on the whim. It should be something that you already feel that you have a calling for. It's definitely not something for everyone. On the second and third year level, we can expect a certain level of proficiency from you. So the learning from there onwards is very experiential. We form sort of groups within the students that act as production teams. So we're highly reliant on everyone's participation and level of skill. Right. It's a medium that lends itself to remote work. So you can also work anywhere in the world, and that's kind of a plus point, and something that I think is a real advantage at a time like this, where some industries do struggle. Animation arts can pick up and do really well. Right. So on the next slide, On the top right, we have some of our graduate works from 2020. This is the latest reel that we have. Obviously, the class of 2021 just graduated. And you'll see quite a wide range of types of mediums that we work in. There's 2D animation, there's 3D animation, there's game design work in between, motion design work, some more traditional looking animation, and you also find some effects and sort of visual treatment and rendering examples and so on and so forth. So these schools or these treatments or even approaches to animation may seem very different and very specialized, and they are, but they all have the same principles that underpin them. You need to be good at design, you need to be able to speak film language, good at composition and timing and color, and all of that sort of mashes together in animation arts, where you have the additional advantage of working with like really advanced technology and riding this wave of evolution in technology. I almost want to say that you know, we take so much for granted because maybe we grew up with things like the internet around us and games and consoles, but we're really seeing a massive burst in sort of different platforms that we could produce 3D content for, like VR and AR, and also the type of tools that we have access to nowadays with AI and machine learning that enhances things like motion capture and animation for us. So yeah, there's really a wide range of fields that you can branch out into, but all these subjects kind of also blur into each other. So skills that you learn in 3D animation, they're often taken to game design to produce the content for game or motion design. And I think the 3D and VFX certificate, where that falls in, is basically just identifying all these little niches and avenues and giving everyone a taste to what's possible within the medium. It's obviously a very time-consuming medium. It's not something that you can just think of one day and then you have an animation the next day. You have to do a lot of planning. There's a process that you have to follow through. You often work in a team, and I think all of this sort of plays at the type of qualities that you need as an animator or someone studying in the field. You need to be able to, on the next slide, for instance, I just listed a couple of values that I think are useful for students that are interested in studying animation, but also, you know, good values to have working in the industry in general. But why these are so important to us is because you need to, like I said in the beginning, you need to be good at what you do, first of all, so that you can be creative. And then people are going to come to you with specific problems that you have to solve because you're specialized and you need to come up with answers in that field. So you need to also be good at what you do, an expert in what you do, but still be able to innovate and problem solve. It's a very community-driven type of medium. There's plenty of online sort of resources that you can tap into, a lot of communities, a lot of people talking about ways of doing things and what's happening in the industry and in the field. There's a lot of community meetups and things that you can join to get exposed to what's happening in the local communities, local industry, and as well as abroad. And then as you work on stuff, because you work in a team, you obviously also need to be accountable. You need to be able to produce consistently. You need to be able to work hard and long hours if you don't solve something necessarily. And I'm talking about this in a very sort of rigid, sort of structural way, because that's typically how productions work. But if you become accustomed to this process of blocking everything out into portions and constantly working at something, you'll find that becomes second nature. And what we're really after is storytelling. narrative is the key, and it's how we figure out things for ourselves, but it's also how we convey information. It's a very engaging way of getting someone to tap into whatever you're trying to share or trying to resolve. So we bring all our ideas together through creative designs, animation, and interactive experiences. Whether that's a still that's been rendered for architectural visualization, or whether it's a simulation that you do using game software. It doesn't mean that we're always entertaining. You can branch into a lot of different avenues. But yeah, I think that covers animation arts.
Oh, thank you so much, Stefan. That was really interesting, and I'm sure all of the students that are wanting to study animation arts are going to be really, really excited to study in your school. I would like to introduce you now to Mornay Venter, who is the head of School for Creative Technologies, and he will again introduce you to some exciting aspects of Creative Technologies School.
Thanks, Jane. And thanks again to everybody for joining us. I'm going to try and be brief and communicative about our school. In our faculty, we host a variety of really exciting subjects that I'm going to go through very, very shortly. But in a broad sense, I think that what we're trying to achieve here is that we try and teach or help students to learn how to paint with technology, is what I would like, if I had to put a little bit of a flourish on it there. And a lot of the time I do find that, or people might find when they listen to me speaking about these different subjects, that there's maybe a lot of jargon, a lot of words and phrases that might seem a little bit strange. What I would encourage you, if you hear things that might seem interesting, that you just jot them down and maybe just Google them as I speak about them, because I might find that, or you might find that you might be interested in the things that I'm talking about, and you might not have actually known that these are options to you. So that would be my recommendation to you. But if we go to the next slide, I'd like to take everybody through our different subjects that we have here. Now, we've essentially got 3 subjects and then some other aspects that I think are value adds to the school that I just want to briefly mention. But firstly, we've got interaction design and interactive development that I like to refer to as 2 sides of the same coin. Now, these 2 subjects are kind of very eloquently expressed in the video at the top right in the slide at the moment, where where these 2 things come together. Now, interaction design is a subject where we teach students how to conceptualize and design visual user interfaces for digital products. All right. In this subject, we teach students how to think about what an interface needs to do, how the interface needs to work, and how they can express that interface through visual design in order to make it as easy and as user-friendly to use as possible. Now, in this process, we also touch on things like user experience design, user experience research, and all of the things that touch on that field there, human-computer interaction, all of those things. So in interaction design, if you're interested in designing visually for the digital medium, that is the subject that you should probably choose. Now, interactive development is, like I said, the flip side of that coin. Interactive development is where we teach students how to program for these digital products. So in interactive development, we teach students how to do HTML and CSS, JavaScript. We teach them about the mean stack. We teach them, there's so many different programming languages that we teach the students. But essentially, we try to equip students with a toolkit in order to be able to develop and help build functioning products. So where the interaction designer would focus on how the product looks on the front end, interactive development focuses on building the back end that makes that product work. And of course, there's a nice bit of interaction between the interaction designer and the interactive developer in industry. They never work in a bubble. So these two subjects do bleed into each other and kind of work together. And then the third subject that we've got there, which is expressed in the bottom video there, is product design, which focuses on creating physical products in all kinds of spaces in our lives. So this can be anything from coffee machine designs to chair designs to furniture designs to honestly any kind of physical design that you can think of. This is the subject that you can kind of express that in. So students learn to work with different mediums like steel and wood, and how to kind of like plan and produce products that use those mediums to express the product. All right, so those are the three major subjects in the Creative Technology School. We also have a user interface design certificate program. It was featured in the slide that Jane showed earlier. It is in design techniques, but with a user interface design focus. So this is a one-year program where students can learn basically the elements and principles of design and how to apply that in the user interface design space. It touches lightly on interaction design, but many of the more deeper skill sets and research methodologies that you might use in interaction design isn't necessarily present in the user interface design course. It's much more focused on the visual design side of that. And then an aspect of the Creative Technology School that I think adds a lot of value is our creative computing modules. In these modules, we help students to explore technology even further. And this is where all three of our subjects come together, and where students learn how to make smart objects, they learn how to make wearable technology, they learn how to produce things that would, that can work in the Internet of Things paradigm. There's so many different, exciting trajectories and avenues present in the creative computing modules for students to explore. So I think what should start becoming clear to you is that if you have an interest in technology at all, and if you have an interest in shaping the digital and physical world around us, this is the subjects that you should be picking and putting into your bouquet. If we can move on to the next slide there. So if I had to say what brings all of our subjects together, it's that we try to teach students how to design both digital and physical products for people to use. We solve people-centered problems using technology and design. So that is the philosophy that brings all of our subjects together. And on the next slide, I will briefly just talk through the values that kind of run throughout our school and that kind of differentiates our subjects from the other schools at Open Window. And the first and most important value that we hold is that every single thing that we teach students to design are interactive living products. Whether this is digital or physical things, these are products designed in 5 dimensions where people have to interact with the product in order to make meaning or to use that product. This means that students are often building prototypes and creating test versions of their products in order to see how it would work and to test it with real people. Our school is also very future-oriented, which means that we are focused on emerging and current technologies, and that we are hell-bent on exploring new tech in curious manners. So every time new technology, we work with existing technology, obviously, but we have our eye focused on new and emerging technologies as well. And that bleeds into the third one there that says technologically advanced. Our school does focus on a lot of technologies that you hear in the buzzwords and articles, and maybe even, with the name Elon Musk attached to it. I'm just joking there, but maybe. And then the fourth value that we have is that we always try and situate our briefs and student projects into solving real world problems. So the scenarios that we present to the students and the products that they make are always bent on solving problems that you might find in the real world. And Our projects also have a human-centered design process at their core. So we make sure that we always focus on who we are designing for, and that we make sure that we are always asking the question, who is the person that's going to be using this at the end of the day, and how can we make choices and design for these people? Then also, just quickly, the last three there, we also focus on designing products that are situated in digital ecosystems. We are keenly aware that none of the things that anybody ever produces happens in a bubble, and all of our living products have to interface with different aspects, whether it is in in society, in your own home, or with different products that you've also designed. So we like to teach students how to consider their products in a systemic way. We also like our school upskill students in order to have a general view and a general use of technology, but that they have the option to specialize when moving into industry. So there's a lot of niches and interesting avenues that open up for you if you've studied development or interaction design or product design, and you can kind of direct your career in order to find yourself a niche when you move into industry. And then lastly, we I think very similarly to all the other schools here, we focus heavily on cross-pollination. We also understand that there are aspects that all subjects are kind of a Venn diagram, and that one subject can learn from the other, and we take pains in order to expose all of our different students in the Creative Technologies School to one another, so that they may actually learn from one another, work together, and understand how their different disciplines can create something greater than the individual. So if you ever look around the world and you ask yourself, why did people make that choice? I could design that so much better. Or if you've spent any time in the digital environment and have noticed that the design of your interfaces and the design of your digital products really make a difference to your day-to-day experience, then I would definitely say that the School of Creative Technologies is for you. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Monet. I think your energy for this field is palpable, so I'm sure there's much excitement. We even got a comment from Bladen who said he cannot wait to experience the School of Creative Technologies. All right, I would like to introduce you now to our head of school for the School of Film Arts, who is Jaco van der Merwe. So Jaco will just explain a bit about the Film Arts School, and we're excited to hear about it, Jaco.
Hi, Jane. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our TED Talk. Kind of is like a TED Talk. Doesn't TED stand for Technology, Education, and Design? I mean, we're ticking all of those boxes.
Yes, it does.
So yeah, this is our little TED Talk. So at the School of Film Arts, I think something that Monet just said is one of the main reasons why I love Open Window so much. I love open days. I love these talks. I was so into Jane and Stefan and Monet's talks now, I almost forgot that I had to say something. It's because of the value of being on that creative campus. There's a lot of arguments being made these days for sort of studying online, or why should I go to some kind of, institute or educational space if I can just sort of get some online tutorials. And the biggest answer that I found, which is like the solid truth, is that you join a community. You're on the campus. I'm in the film arts school, but I've been at illustration superstations. Some of my fondest memories over these last 8 years of being part of the Open Window family is the awesome events that happen on campus and that cross-pollination that Monet is talking about. I've learned things in sort of every creative field. And I've grown as a creative person because of that. So in the Film Arts School, we have 5 major subjects. Here you see a still frame, sorry, on the previous slide, Jane, a still frame from a lovely honors film by Tana Pistorius, who is currently working at an awesome film company in Cape Town. She keeps posting these cool pictures of her wearing all this gear. She looks like an NFL coach, is what I told her she looks like. But she's, yeah, so it's lovely to see our top honor student from, I think, 2 years ago, doing cool stuff out in the industry. There was even a lovely article published about her recently in a lovely online journal. Okay, next slide. So the 5 major subjects in film arts are film and television, which I guess you could say is kind of the heart of the school, although that's not fair to the other subjects, but it is the biggest subject. It obviously pairs well with any of the other subjects. Film and television actually also pairs well with photography, which is in the School of Visual Communication coming up next. But there's lots of, the great thing about the film school is there's lots of opportunity to specialize. So by 3rd year level, you could be specializing in music production, which is currently one of our focus skills, or cinematography, which is one of our focus skills. But let me not jump ahead. Let me do one thing at a time here. So we've got these 5 major subjects: film and television, sound design. Sound design also works well across all of the schools, really. I mean, sound design informs game design. It informs animation arts. Sound design just happens to be housed in the film arts school because a large part of what we do in sound design is live sound recording. It's also sound mixing, post-production. We have a wonderful sound studio on campus, really nicely kitted out. We have 3 great sound design lecturers. They just actually finished doing post-production sound on a TV series that just finished airing on one of the big DSTV channels. And the 3 lecturers, the 3 sound design lecturers, actually spearheaded that project and then incorporated some of our alumni and current students to help with that. So it was such a cool, like Jane was saying earlier, it's very important for us that our lecturers are active in the industry. And in that way, it's also a kind of springboard and this sort of place where we connect students to possible opportunities. And that just keeps happening. I mean, like I was saying, one of my favorite things about Open Window is the community. It's like a family of creative people. And I'm still in contact with many alumni. You know, whenever I have a project, even outside of Open Window context, I have like a long list of people that I can call to collaborate with, to work with on any kind of audiovisual project, from poster designers to, you know, filmmakers and editors and sound designers. And it really is this community of people that move through the world together. And like Stefan was also saying, you know, it's important to note the context that we're in, the time that we're in. And I'm just like extremely proud of how the Film Arts School has navigated this time. And also all of the schools in Open Window has navigated this really difficult time. And people are just making such excellent work. Okay, then we have production design. Production design is basically the world of the moving image project. So anything that you see in a movie, from the wardrobe to the makeup to the obviously the background, and these days production design also moves a lot into a digital space. Production design is also not limited only to film sets or TV sets. Production design is everything from award shows and theater and you know, advertising stuff and conferences. Like anytime you need to design a world, basically, that is what production design looks at. That is also one of my favorite courses. The screen acting school is really flourishing with 3 excellent lecturers also spearheading that major subject. Again, there's a big emphasis on the difference between theater acting. South Africa has a very proud and strong tradition of theater acting. Some of the greatest theater actors and playwrights actually in the world. But our screen acting, you know, is something that is growing and developing. And we like, I mean, the last few times we've screened some Open Window Film Arts films, we've just been blown away by what our own acting students are delivering in terms of performance on the screen. So we're very excited about that subject. That also pairs well with film and television, for example. So where you can learn to be the person behind the camera, you know, writing the story, directing the action, perhaps editing the film in post-production. And if you also do screen acting, you learn what it's like to be the one who is giving the performance. So those 2 usually pair very well together. And then also screenwriting. Our screenwriting course is very intense. By the end of 3rd year, you actually write a feature-length screenplay. I think you write a couple of episodes of a TV series. It's like a really intense writing school. Jane, if you'll go to the next slide. So some of the sort of key concepts that underpin everything we do in the Film Arts School, it's very important for us that you become a multidisciplinary creative. So even though there is 3 points later, the opportunity to specialize, if you catch a flame for something, let's say cinematography as an example, you can, end up really becoming a technician, someone who is a great cinematographer, who can take a director's vision or take the screenplay, and by using the camera, bring that, artwork to life. So we have the full range of students in the Film Arts School, everybody ranging from someone who's very technical, all the way to someone who is like an auteur and it has a very idiosyncratic vision and a unique voice, that they want to bring to the world of cinema, and everything in between. People who want to go into car advert making and whatever, And I think what we've become quite good at as the film school has grown over the last decade is to identify what you're into, then to walk a very specific personal journey with you to make you the best version of that thing that we see in you. That would be the last point there, finding a voice, as well as the third last point, contact time. As Jane mentioned, that is the central part of what Open Window is. And also the key difference to just taking some YouTube tutorials. It's like the amount of time that you get to spend with lecturers, with fellow students, and what Stefan was also mentioning about problem solving. All of this is learning in context. You don't learn a concept because somebody has repeated it to you 3 times. You learn it by doing it, So that really is what the film school is all about. So we teach you the hard skills, the technique, and the all the software and everything you need, but we also teach you the soft skills. So that is creativity, that's collaboration, that's problem solving. These are things that you only learn by being on campus, by being in these subjects, by going through the course. And our favorite thing is when at the end of the 3-year course or at the end of the honors year, which is the 4th year, you find your voice. We see something in you which is unique. You have become an artist in the cinematic or in the moving image medium. We even have sound designers who have really found their voice as sound designers. I also quickly want to just mention the certificate program. The certificate program is a 1-year program, film and TV course. It's a little less theory heavy and it's quite practical, and you do a lot. Like in that 1 year, you go all the way from screenwriting and conceptualizing a short film into making a short film in a group. It's a very handy course for someone who doesn't have 3 years to study and just wants to get into the world of filmmaking. But it isn't a bachelor's degree, so it doesn't have that theoretical underpinning. I'll quickly just say something about theory anyway across all of the schools, because we haven't really sort of touched on that. The degree courses across all 4 schools are underpinned by theory, right? So we're not only interested in what you make, we're interested in how you think. That's very important for us. I'm also one of the theory lecturers, so I enjoy thinking and talking about that. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I'm not sure if I missed some questions in the chat. If I did, I'll get back to them at the end of the talk. Thanks for coming to the TED Talk. I probably did more than 8 minutes. And Micah is still going to talk to us about the School of Visual Communication.
Thanks, Yaku. Yeah, so the next person to introduce, as Yaku mentioned, is Micah Bakker. So she is the head of School for Visual Communication, and we are excited to find out a bit more. Thanks.
Great. I'm lucky I got a double introduction, so thanks, Jane and Yaku. Yeah, so let me delve into things. I think it's always quite difficult to actually talk through all the subjects and to give you inside info. But because usually what I enjoy is showing off the student work first, and I think that often provides a lot of insight into sort of what the subjects are about, and we usually enjoy showing off a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to encourage you to look at some of the subject reels that are on the YouTube channel. So you'll see there's a reel for illustration, communication design, and photography, also per level. And I think what's important to note there is that what you will also be able to observe is sort of the development from 1st year to 3rd year, because as open day, what we've often observed is students come to campus and they see the student work, and they're very excited, but they also end up being a little bit intimidated because they sort of think, how on earth am I ever going to make something of that level? So it's always nice to actually see how sort of the levels build on each other, in order to allow you to arrive at sort of that final body of work, which we like showing off. And you'll see the examples of work that are in the VC slides, and those are all third year work. So that is sort of where one ends up at the end of the journey. So that was just a side note, but I think let me delve into some more specifics. So when Monet had his painting with technology catchphrase, I thought I had to quickly come up with something. So I thought a good one for VC is illuminating idea through visuals. So to me, sort of visual communication is all about sort of using visuals in order to effectively communicate ideas. So in short, that sort of covers it. I think the course teaches students to skills. Obviously, you require the basic skill set to get going. Yaku referred to that as the hardware, I don't know, anyways, but that is sort of the main requirement. And then the soft skills, or the hard skills and the soft skills is sort of the thinking, but I want to sort of emphasize the thinking. And I think all the other subject managers have also done that, which speaks to sort of a main value at Open Window, which is to really sort of not just be good at sort of the technical aspect of what you do, but to really possess the knowledge that's required. So it's knowledge of the field, but also to have conceptual rigor and to really be able to adapt to a rapidly changing world and also a rapidly changing creative industry as such. So in short, sort of visual communication is often a confusing term to people. So I'll talk you through sort of what visual communicators essentially do. And as I've said, it's all about sort of illuminating ideas, but it's essentially also just to help shape the visual world around us. So visuals form part of our daily lives. We encounter them on multiple sort of platforms. And I think sometimes we also forget that someone actually had to make that visual. And that is essentially where visual communicators come in. And I think what all the VC subjects, and I will introduce you to the 3 subjects in more detail as we go along, but what all 3 VC subjects, which are communication design, photography, and illustration, what they have in common is that they really set out to effectively communicate an idea, concept, or story through the means of visual language. And when I speak about visual language, visual language can take many different forms. It can be through a photograph, it can be through sort of packaging design, a book cover, etc. So later on, I'll also sort of touch on a few potential projects that one might encounter in VC, and that will also give you a little bit more of an idea. But we'll get to that once I'm talking you through the different subjects. And I think also just before we get to sort of before I start unpacking what each of the subjects is about and how it fits into the bigger VC sort of picture or VC puzzle, it's also just important to just briefly touch on how the different levels work. So Stefan also touched on that in animation arts, and I think that's also quite important for sort of the VC degree program. And level 1 is really very much focused on sort of those foundational skills, really sort of becoming proficient in terms of using software, becoming more confident in your ideas, and really just sort of getting those basic skills into place so that in second year you can actually start advancing those skills. In second year you get to play around a little bit more, you get to experiment a little bit more, you get to take a bit more of a sort of playful approach to your briefs. And there you also start thinking about sort of how you can further develop your ideas. And there it sort of starts heading in the direction of third year, which is all about really sort of developing rigorous concepts. Yaku spoke about finding your voice. This is also definitely relevant to all the third year VC subjects. You'll also be you want to get to a place where you feel confident in what you do. Software and other technical skills don't get in your way anymore, and you really get to sort of be creative and engage imaginative thinking, and also sort of apply your creative problem solving skills. Okay, so that's sort of just a breakdown of how the different levels work in the degree program. as I've mentioned, the subjects that we've got 3 subjects that fall under the VC umbrella. And the first one I'll introduce you to is communication design. So most of you might know communication design as graphic design, but the reason why we refer to it as communication design, it's quite intentional. And this is also because in communication design, there's a lot of emphasis on sort of communicating ideas visually. Research goes into the development of the imagery. It's not just about sort of developing bold graphics, but it's really about that communicative aspect that is sort of foregrounded. So that sort of justifies the name that we use. And yeah, I think just to sort of, this is quite a big subject in terms that it touches on many different things. As communication designers in the current sort of industry context, there's quite a lot of skills that one needs to have. Communication design sort of touches on various legs. So we've got packaging design, obviously sort of branding and sort of logo identities, and unpacking that in advertising elements is also featured. Typography is a massive component of communication design as well. Exploring sort of how does type essentially speak to an image, and what happens when you place them alongside each other, sort of unpacking that relationship, looking at how the two can be integrated is also essential. Yeah, so there's quite a lot to take into account, and definitely a subject that when you sort of leave Open Window as a communication designer, what is quite nice to point out about our program is that you really manage to get a good grip on all of these different aspects that sort of fall under the subject. And I think some of the projects, if we're thinking about what might a typical communication design project look like, so often it might be sort of developing branding for, or a particular identified brand. It's an example might be sort of developing a logo for a skincare range, and then sort of expanding on that across different advertising platforms. Perhaps it might involve developing packaging for a product. So here, when we think about packaging, it's not just about sort of what it looks like in terms of the visual aspect, but also the structure, how the structure works in terms of the brand, how to elevate sort of the bigger brand vision and identity. Projects our students often do that they really enjoy doing is gin packaging, for example. So one gets to also be quite playful and try different things. Editorial layout is a massive component of communication design, as stated. So here, again, like I've said, you would explore type a lot. You also learn to generate some of your own type. And here that image and text relationship is sort of explored in depth. So that's sort of the broad overview of communication design. And that leads us to the next subject, which is illustration. And before I sort of delve into illustration, I think what's also important to mention is illustration and communication design also pair together quite well. So many of our students tend to also double major across those subjects. So illustration, what does an illustrator essentially do? So illustration is not just about sort of creating images. Often I think it's misunderstood as, developing decorative images, which is not the case, but it's rather about sort of creating images that communicate specific meaning or messages. So if you enjoy drawing, so if you want to be an illustrator, you definitely have to enjoy drawing a lot. So the backbone of illustration is essentially drawing. What you do is you create a drawing that you sort of add to, you add little visual cues and clues into it in order to make it accessible to someone to be able to decipher the message or the intended sort of message the image sets out to convey. Okay. What's exciting about illustration is there are various styles to explore. In our illustration course, we still embrace a lot of traditional mediums. Our students also use sort of apps like Procreate. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Procreate, the iPad app. Students also explore vector images. So there are also various styles to explore. And I think the imaginative aspect is also a huge part of it. You get to really live out your imagination. You get to engage in storytelling. So that's also quite exciting. I think there's lots of potential there. And then also, again, to touch on an idea of what an illustration project might be. One of the most popular projects the students do in illustration is the children's book project. So here they're provided with a story that they have to interpret. We also have students sort of engage with text and respond to a written text by developing imagery that helps to sort of illuminate or provide insight into a written text. And then also what's quite exciting, and I'm sure this is something that a lot of you have also observed, is that illustration is becoming sort of more dominant in the advertising context. A lot of brands are using illustration because it allows them to express, like I said, to engage in the imaginative more. It's a powerful tool in storytelling. And also it can provide insight into the personality of a brand quite successfully. Okay, so, and then finally we've got photography, and this one, obviously the title is quite self-explanatory, but here it's also important to note this is also a subject that pairs up quite well as a double major, meaning that you can take that alongside communication design. That's the most comfortable fit up to third year. And photography. So obviously students here learn to use photographic equipment. So in first year, there's a lot of sort of understanding your camera, knowing what happens when you do what. So it's really sort of, just having insight into the technical components of the camera, learning to effectively use the equipment. And that sort of forms the foundation of the subject. Jane also touched on the fact that we've got a professional photography studio that we're very proud of. So our students also get to use the photography studio. They learn how to use the lighting in the studio. So that is also a massive part of it. Later on, you also learn how do you sort of manipulate all of these different components in order to achieve a desired outcome, so that you can again sort of have clearer intention behind the images that you're producing. One thing that is very exciting about photography and that the students thoroughly enjoy is that there are a lot of workshops in photography. So students don't only aren't confined to the studio space, but you also get to sort of explore subject matter on the fly. So as you are on a workshop, you might go to different locations, and there you need to sort of respond to what you have to work with, and you have to sort of think on your feet. You get to work with natural light. You also, a massive part of photography is working with people. So there you also sort of learn how to manage people and how to work with people in order to potentially, capture portraits or, for person-based shoots. So I think that is also quite an exciting thing. The projects in photography are also diverse. Obviously, advertising is a massive sort of part of photography. So a lot of product shoots, food photography. We even have automotive photography. I mentioned working with people is a massive part of it. So again, sort of photographing models for fashion shoots and sort of portrait studies. And beyond that, I think in general, photography is also quite sort of dominantly featured in the publishing context. Okay, so so hopefully that provides a little bit of an overview what each of the subjects have to offer. One can go on into a lot more detail, but I think here, as stated, go look at the reels, look at the student work. I think if you look at the student work, you get a lot more insight into that. And then, we've got the certificate programs as well. So we've got the National Certificate in Design Techniques. I think Jane did a good job of already pointing out what the difference is between the certificate programs versus the degrees. So as stated, it is really about getting those core skills, all the basic skills that you need just in order to be able to sort of engage with that subject at a basic entry level. And this is just to gain you access into that field. It's not so much about that progressive thinking yet, but it's just to be able to understand what the basic needs and requirements are in order for you to be able to practice within that particular sort of field or to work within that subject. Then, so the certificate program, they do a lot of different types of projects as well, definitely a strong focus on software. So that's something to take note of. I think the FET photography one-year program is also very technically driven. You learn how to use your camera, all the technical things that also usually one would do in first level in the degree. So a lot more about understanding your camera, understanding light, and those foundational aspects. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's already quite a lot of info. So let me try to sort of wrap this up. I've mentioned that imaginative thinking is really quite a big component of all the VC subject, expressing ideas that sort of feature conceptual rigor. It's really also about experimentation. So one of the events that we host in the VC schools, I mean, Jaco touched on the illustration superstation. That's also one we've been doing for years, where students come together and draw. We've got Type Hype, which is also a typography-based event. The photography department, like I said, does a lot of workshops that also hosts various exhibitions. And then one of the events that really sort of ties it all together is the Exquisite Corps, where students get to collaborate with other students, with lecturers, with alumni. And here sort of that main value of, just sort of experimentation is exercise. So the students really get to try different things. So that is quite important to us, to allow students space to also try different things in order to sort of find their path and to eventually sort of figure out what it is that what their strengths are, and to land their voice as a visual communicator. I think that's a good note to conclude on. One last thing that I can say is that our students also have very sort of well-refined portfolios, and I think that sort of leaves them at a good place when entering industry. That's all from my side. Sorry, that might have been a bit long, but you know all you need to know at this stage.
It was wonderful. Thank you, Micah, for giving such a detailed overview of all the subjects. And thank you to all of our heads of schools. I think all of your energy is great, and I'm sure all of the potential and newly registered Open Window students are really excited to start the academic year. I'm going to hand over to Kobus van Niekerk now, who is one of our senior student advisors, and he's going to provide a little bit more information on the registration and information processes, and then we can open the floor for a quick Q&A. I'm not sure if we'll get to all of the questions, but we'll try our best. Otherwise, remember, you can also contact your student advisors. So, Kobus, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane. Hello, everyone. I would like to take you through a few important upcoming dates. We are, of course, still open for registrations, and if you haven't done so, you're welcome to join us on campus for our final registration day on the 22nd of January between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Please remember to bring along your ID and your grade 12 or highest result. Our sales team are also available during the week should you wish to register for 2022. And then on the 25th of January, we will send an invite reminder for our second info session for student support between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. That will cover areas such as the student support structure, including information about orientation, important dates, timetables, qualification changes, and so forth. Also, all aspects of the admission and enrollment process and financial planning for your studies in Feb 2022, and also what we will cover is some general FAQs pertaining to the 2022 intake. A link will once again be sent to all first years for that. Then on the 29th of Jan, we have our open day for the 2022 intake between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. where you can experience some of the vibe on the campus. There will also be informative tours of the facility, a talk around financial planning, and also an opportunity to speak to your student advisors and some of the lecturers. We will also have some supplies on site should you wish to get a great deal on laptops and camera equipment, as well as ABSA and Standard Bank should you wish to have more information about the student loans. You may, of course, also still register on this day. Our student advisors is, of course, always available should you require information on the qualifications we offer, entrance requirements, and financial guidance. I think that's all from my side. I'm going to hand the mic back to Jane. Thank you.
Thank you, Corbus. I'm going to stop presenting for a minute so that you can see our faces. And we've got 10 minutes for Q&A. I just want to say I do see quite a couple of questions around stationery and equipment. That we have a wonderful guide and documents that you can go through, and it indicates laptop requirements per school, per subject, as well as added extras if you're thinking of investing in a tablet or if you want an iPad. So I would suggest going through that document, and then if you would like a little bit of extra guidance or assistance, you can always contact your student advisor for more comments. But any questions from anyone on the floor about academics or subject combinations, or just comments about how excited you are to start the academic year? We're here for the next 9 minutes. So I got a question from Antonio in the chat saying, which days should first years sign up for with regards to the student orientation? So our student orientation is happening from the 31st of January until the 4th of February. And any day would be appropriate. So there's no specific day that you should sign up for. The lecturers will be there for all of the days. We're going to introduce you to some of the first year lecturers. And then we're going to obviously have some student support representatives guiding you through some of the technical things, logging you onto Canvas, which is the platform that we use. So feel free to book any day that suits you. It is just one day. It's a long, intensive day, and that is obviously so that we can work with you in smaller groups and give you detailed feedback and answer any questions. And then I see from Praise, is there going to be a virtual means to join the orientation? No, so the orientation is presented on campus. We don't have a virtual orientation, but we will have a later orientation just to help any students who have registered late, or in your case, Praise, who are joining in South Africa later. And the student support department will give you the dates, or your student advisor will give you the dates for that. And then Marilee asks, can we ask about our timetables? If it says the room is online theory, does that mean we'll have the class online, or are all classes at the campus? So we have a combination. We use a multimodal approach. So some classes are online, some classes are on campus, and then some classes have a mixture of both. So if you would like a list of exactly which subject does what, you can go to our website, and you can click under information on what to expect when studying during COVID 2022. And you'll have a very detailed breakdown of which subjects are hybrid, which subjects are on campus, and which subjects are online. If on your timetable it says your subject is online, you will get a Google Meet, and you will be able to join that class from your own home or from campus, but you will join the class online. Okay, campus is always available to all of our students. So if you want to join all of your online classes from campus and make use of our Wi-Fi and our workspaces, you are very, very welcome to do so. I'm just having a look at any of the other questions. Don't stress if you haven't received your student numbers or your timetables yet. Remember, your student advisors are there with you every step of the way. So just reach out to them. Perhaps they're waiting on an additional document, or perhaps it's in the pipeline to come your way. Your timetable is, yes, it's available on the student portal. And regarding what exactly you should bring for the registration day, Corbus, would you like to comment on that?
Hi, Jane. Sorry.
No problem.
For registrations day, what you need to bring is you need to bring a ID book. We will make a copy of the ID book, and then your grade 12 or your highest qualification. And then if you have not paid your application fee, it's 1,750. And then for the final registration fee, it's 12,000. So together it's 13,750. And then we can register you.
Great, thanks, Corbus.
Sure.
So I think we've covered all of the questions coming through. You don't have to bring anything to orientation day, just yourselves and your excitement and your energy. In terms of the Gautrain, it's really easy. I used it often. So if you're looking to use the Gautrain, you just stop off at the Centurion station and you will take the bus that heads to South Downs. And I think it's about the 6th stop. And it's a wonderful 15 minutes ride on the bus where you can get your energy ready for the day. Yes, you will be informed about how everything works. So Bladen's asked, will we be informed how the student portal works during orientation? During orientation, we'll introduce you to the portal, to Canvas, to accessing your email. So everything will be explained in detail. Any issues again with timetables, please contact your student advisor. But otherwise, I think everyone seems quite excited. I'm getting lots of clappy hands in the messages, and I'm not checking out what's happening on the YouTube comments, but I'm sure it's just as much excitement. From the academic department, I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of everyone when I say we are so excited to welcome our new first years to campus. It's always such an exciting and exhilarating experience for us. You all come with so much energy, so we can't wait to receive you with that energy on campus. And yeah, orientation is just around the corner, so please finalize your registrations and you'll see us all in person on campus shortly. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Bye.
Jane. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Oh.
Bye.
That's fine. We will manage the end of the session. Thank you so much.
Super.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
We're logging off.
Bye-bye.
Bye.